Okay, everyone. Thanks for coming to yoga today. Feel like we need it now more than ever. So what we're going to do is start with a standing position. You can establish a pretty wide position if you like, about as wide as your mat. Once you got a nice stable base to work with, we're just going to start with our little Tai Chi Qigong arm swing. And we'll try to stay on pace today for a full 3 minutes. Sorry. So we're on about 40-50 swings a minute or so. Standing nice and tall. Breathing comfortably and fully on the deep side. And if your shoulders are anything like mine, which they're certainly something like mine, but also very unique, of course, you're probably going to want to emphasize a little more of that back swing than the forward swing. Just so you've got some shot at kind of an even amount of swing from this midline. Back X number of degrees, forward X number of degrees. And that X variable should be fairly consistent. Doesn't have to be precise. But we're just avoiding this one, right? Where we like come to the thighs and then all the way up. We want to work that backswing. Once you've got a little rhythm going, once you've got that emphasis kind of dialed in, focusing more on the backswing, then it can just be pretty loose and free. And it doesn't have to be very controlled from the top down. You just let your arms swing. Simple. Hopefully kind of pleasurable. Nice for the shoulders. Good for the upper back. Good to open up the collarbones a little bit, top of the chest. Get some nice sensations down in the hands and the fingers. Last minute. Last few swings, everybody. Oh. Try not to hit the wall with your knuckle. Doesn't feel good. Okay. And then, one that's got some crossover with Tai Chi Qigong Yoga. Just this easy twist. What makes it easy? It feels pretty easy. We're not trying to push into ranges of motion that are super challenging or really even challenging at all. And you've got loads of variability. How much you're turning at the foot. My current version, I got a lot of rotation down in the foot. How much at the knee and the hip. Versus one that's more flat-footed. So I take the ankle out of it and just rotate hip and torso, or maybe even keep the hips more square and just rotate torso. You can let the head go with and look over that twisting shoulder every time, or the head can stay a little more centered the whole time, like this. And you can add some other features where you reach sort of like a cross in boxing. Please don't judge my boxing. I'm not a boxer. Okay. I'm a lover, not a puncher. But this cross movement is excellent. You can also do a twist where you open up. Oh, gosh. To the side you're twisting toward. Open it. Open it. Open it. Last few twists, everybody. Oh, man, that feels good. Okay. And let's come back to just that first easy twist where everything's twisting a little, but not too much. Alright. And slowly work it back to neutral. Alright. Then we're going to get this left leg. Whichever one you start with is fine. We'll go to the other one. And just give it a few swings. You're giving it a little forward and a little backward. And maybe it's kind of like that arm pendulum from earlier, but the likelihood is much higher that you will be swinging forward quite a bit and not much backswing. Couple more. Okay. And then, let's release that. Switch legs. So now you're on leg 2. Probably right leg for a lot of you, but whichever one you need to get to now. You've got some swing, intending on going forward and backward with the high probability that you've got a lot more forward movement, but that's okay. Last couple swings, you could add a little alternating kind of arms as well, or just stick with the leg. Okay, and then release that. Then, roughly tracing the front line of your mat, or a different wall in your room, just go side to side. You're brushing your leg across the short line of your mat. Right to left, left to right, right to left, left to right. Okay. Then let's release that, switch legs. East, west, east, west, east, west. Okay. Let's release that. Let's go to the first side and just lift up your knee. We're going to just hold the knee, lean forward slightly so the ribs are braced, and push. So your ribs are squeezed in, knitted together. Your abs are on. Your standing leg butt cheek is strong. Your leg muscles of the bent leg are trying to drive your leg up, and your arm says, no, stay right there. And it's that agreed upon isometric resistance where so much of the juice is. Let's release and switch sides. So this can feel very, very robust, I think, but it's also quite simple in many ways. You just flex the hip and provide resistance. That's it. You're trying to flex more, knee toward chest, with the resistance. And you can feel like exactly how much resistance is right to sort of bring to the pose. Part of what's so cool about it. Release. One more time, same exact exercise. Side one. Knee flexion. Technically it's hip flexion. You see your knee moving. Resist it, one or two hands. Keep the ribs knit. Okay, and then release that. Side 2, last one. Hip flexion with resistance. Maybe 2 hands. Bias toward leaning forward a tiny bit instead of back bending. Good. And then let's release that. Oh man. Next, we're going to riff on this theme for a moment. Lift up leg 1, left side for most of you. Now you're going to block the inside of the leg. So you're going to take a hand or 2 and try to let the leg go across, but block it. So you have hip flexion, knee toward chest, and a deduction, like you're trying to move the leg into your midline even more with a blocker in place. Side 2. Strong. Lift, knit, and block. What am I blocking? Blocking adducting. So I'm engaging the adductor muscles in here. I'm just not giving the leg anywhere to go. But it doesn't mean it's not active. In fact, it's very active. And release. These sequences are always as challenging for the standing leg as the leg that's getting all the movement. Again, this time the opposite block. Lift up your knee. Block the outside edge of the leg. So your leg is attempting now to go out. But it's thwarted from actually locomoting. But the muscles are totally on. Release. Ooh. Side 2. We're blocking abduction, the outer movement. Lift. You've got your hand or hands on the outer edge of the leg. With strong muscular intention, you are trying to open the leg, but the arms are there to block it. Okay. And then release that. Oh, man. Next, we hit this recently. We're going to just barely lift one standing leg. You can lift your left side first if you like. And we're going to externally rotate from the hip. So that means that leg is turning out like maybe to 11 or 1 o'clock, maybe even to 10 or 2 o'clock, depending on your leg. Now when that happens, we're going to twist the torso, chest and head away from this leg. Then I'm going to come back with the torso, neutralize the leg that's lifted, and internally rotate it. Internally rotate it. And then I'm going to twist toward the internal rotation. 2 more times, both directions. External hip, twist away, neutral. Internal hip, twist toward the thing, neutral, last one, this is hard. External rotation, twist away from the thing. My standing leg hip is cooking. And last one, internal rotation, twist toward. And then release. That's 3 times per rotation, new side. So you've got a strong, stable standing leg. Barely lift the opposite leg off the floor. I'm on the right side now, but you make sure you're switching. The hip does an external rotation. Turns out, and then we twist away. Neutral. Internal rotation, not just the foot, but deep in your hip socket, turning, and then letting your spine, chest, head twist toward the internally rotated hip. 2 more through and then we're done. External rotation, twist away. Internal rotation, twist toward. Last one, everybody. External rotation, twist away. Goodness, internal rotation, twist toward. Excellent. And then let's release that. All right. Next, we are going to line up the feet like they're on a balance beam. It really doesn't have to have that sort of high stakes element to it, because obviously you've got nowhere to fall, you're not on a beam, you're not lifted up. So really, just to put it in the simplest terms, you just have one foot out in front of the other. Right? One foot out in front of the other. But it does feel a little bit like you're on the tightrope. It's not our normal gait. And try to just find that point where it's roughly even between the front and back foot. There can be any amount of length between the heel and the toes. So the stance can be as long as you want. And then we're just going to retract the chin slightly. So you can also think of it as, I mean, the chin moves, but this bone deep in here where the tongue's attached, and I can't really get at it, that's pulling backward toward the bottom of the skull. And then we take the arms out like a letter T, knit the ribs, retract the head, and then squeeze your shoulder blades toward each other. And then release. So we're just going to try that a couple times. So, just to check in, we've got the feet in a straddle, hips are square, ribs are on the kind of knit inside, not a lot of back bend with this one. Arms go out, head pulls back, arms pull back, but mainly staying out of the big back bend. And then release. 2 more on this angle. Oh, God, that feels good. Last one. Oh, I lost it. And then release. Oh, I had that stance for so long. All right, now we're going to switch. New leg out in front. Acclimate. Standing on like a 6-inch wide stripe up the center of your mat. Righting the weight in the feet. And finding your way into a pretty stable trunk. And this time we'll take the arms up like a Y in relation to the spine. Retract the head. Externally rotate the arms. So that means the thumbs point backward. And then reach the arms back. I'm very close to a dog pose angle. And then relax. 2 more times. Same side. Arms flex up. Head retracts backward. External rotation in your shoulders. Knit in ribs. And then arms back any amount they can go. It could be that they're out here. It could be they're way back here. And then release. Oh. Hi, 2 more. Bonus. Okay, same thing. Basically the letter Y arms. We get this look in lots of different shapes. Super functional. Last one, everybody. Walking the tightrope, squaring the hips, knitting the ribs, retracting the head, reaching the arms, squeezing at your end range of motion. Oh. And then everybody, finally, let's let that go. And release. Let's come back to neutral. Oh, that feels good. All right. So from here, everybody, let's bring the hands to the heart. And let's try, I know a lot of you have this just sort of already dialed into your practice in some way, but it's actually something I don't teach very often. And that is Ujayi Pranayama, Ujayi. So Ujayi is a form of nostril breathing, so your nasal breathing, but with a slight constriction in the glottis, in part of your throat. Like if you're trying to fog up a mirror, and you're breathing out through your mouth, it kind of makes that sound. You can kind of feel your throat constrict a little bit. But if you do that without your mouth, you can still hear it kind of through the back of the throat. So you can experiment. And if you want to ditch it and just breathe normally through your mouth, through your nose, that's fine too. But before we get flowing here, we're going to try 10 Ujayi breaths. It sounds kind of silly to say, but it's sort of the yogic Darth Vader breath. Not quite as pronounced as Mr. Vader there, but it's audible. This breathing is not the silent type. It's not super subtle. About 5 more rounds of Ujayi. And if you're just confounded by this technique and you haven't done it much on your own, just breathe in a way that feels comfortable in and out through your nose. 3 or 4 more rounds. Either way, we've got big, full, deep, conscious breaths coming in and out through the nose. Let's try one more. Awesome. Then on your next inhale, coordinate it. Inhale and reach up the arms. And exhale and hinge at your hips. Ideally, the hands can get to some surface, be it the floor or a prop, a block. But you can also just bend the knees to make it a little easier to get to the floor. 5 big breaths, everybody. Uttanasana. You're going to release your head down. And just kind of relax the body for a moment here. Relax the back of the neck. Relax the shoulders. Release up through the floor of the pelvis. Glutes are soft. And just elongating through the back of the legs. Last 2 breaths here. Then let's climb halfway up the legs and take the torso into position that's halfway between floor bound and sky bound. The reference I often make is like We're basically reaching out to the horizon line for this one. Now, a lot of us, I think, without, stopping to feel it for a moment, lock out the knees and lean into the heels. Let's try something a little different. Lean into the pads of the feet. Keep a microscopic little bend in the knees. It's so slight, but it's present. Try to draw the breastbone upward and forward. Let the back of the neck stay on that same upward, forward slope. And feel the sit bones lifting. You're basically in dog tilt. One more big breath here. And then one more time, everybody. Exhale, hinge all the way down. And then simply walk your way into a plank position. So you can just base it on where you are in your mat, who walks, whether it's your hands or your feet. And just hold this for about 10 big breaths. And if you want to reinstitute the Ujayi breathing, you can. Otherwise, just normal nostril breathing. So if you've got challenges with plank, that's fine. It should be a challenging pose. If it's too easy, you've got to start, upping the ante a little bit with longer holds or more challenging versions. And if it's still just really hard to get more than like 5 seconds in it, you've got knees on the ground as an option. If your wrists are the deal breaker, you've got fists as an option. Forearms as an option. And the easiest planks, if you really needed some huge support, you can just be higher up. I mean, this is essentially plank pose. I mean, it is plank. I've just got my hands 2.5 feet higher than they'd normally be. It's pretty easy. This is plank pose. Well, this one's really easy. I can hold this probably for 45 minutes, maybe an hour. The one on the chair for maybe 20 minutes. And this one, maybe for 2. So they get very different depending on the angle. All right, let's come down and rest on the belly. If you'd found your way to a prop, obviously just come back to your mat. All right, so once we're down on the belly, everybody, we're gonna take the hands along the ribs. Squeeze the inner thighs together. Squeeze your butt. And I'm talking just barely lift your head. Essentially what we're doing here is that head retraction exercise. So the bones that attach your tongue, or where your tongue is attached, go toward the back of the skull. This is harder than when we stood because there's more resistance to be found. And then release. So just to check in, we've got legs together, which is a little different. Normally they'd be hip width distance apart. We've got some glute activity. And we've got a retracted head that lifts off the ground. Last one here. This is like mini Shalambhasana. Oh. All right. And then from there, everybody, back to the fully prone release position. And one more shape from here. We're going to take the hands onto the top of the hips at the butt. We're going to turn the palms up to face the sky. And about 10 times in a row, you're just going to keep your wrists and the lowest part of your forearm on your backside, but lift your elbows. And then release, and just try about, see if we can get to 10 of these. And just checking in on the details, the legs are still in a very narrow position. The glutes have some action. The back of the wrists stay on your back. They don't angle too much. The head can stay on the floor. I'm just lifting it so the cues are easier for me to deliver with good sound. And those shoulder, oh my God, those shoulder blades squeeze, collarbones open, upper back muscles fire. Last one, give it a nice long squeeze. Oh God, and then let's release that. Oh, that just feels so good. That work for the shoulders is really, really excellent. All right, so let's shimmy to all fours. Same conditions always apply here, everybody. Pad your knees. Find a palatable shape for your wrists. Okay, then we're going to take one arm out to the side. So at this point I'm not really twisting, I'm just exercising the arm. I'm actually keeping my body aligned with the ground. Letting this wing lift a little higher, possibly. Feeling that shoulder blade nice and flush in the back. And then release, switch arms. So, I'm sure you guys have already put it together. Just try that back and forth. But this movement we did earlier and those T's we did earlier standing, this is just now a more challenging version. Your arm's in a position where it's got more weight that it has to resist. We're doing it one arm at a time, so it's a little more like focused. The trunk stays very stable. Last couple. Oh. One more per side, everybody. Alright. Next, with two hands or fists or palms or forearms, however you like it, on the ground, we're going to lift one knee. Lift one knee. And then just draw it back in and lift it back out. So you want to try about 10 times. This is an exercise I think I've taught a few times while lying on our side, but we rarely do it from here. Ooh, that's a lot of work. 3 more. 2 more. Last one. Yeah. New side. It's not the clamshell movement in that the feet aren't touching. It's the entire bent leg as one unit from deep up in the hip moves away from the midline. Let's be blunt, it does closely resemble a dog approaching a fire hydrant. Okay. Last one. And then release that. Oh, that's good business. All right, next, we won't be here much longer, but let's come down onto the forearms. Let's extend one leg back. Side one leg. And then little beats up and down. So we're just trying to keep the hips square, the trunk neutral, the eyes, you know, when you're not looking at the screen, just down looking out at the front of your mat. Even the bottom of this lift lower is still obviously a lifted position. We're not coming all the way to the floor. Last couple beats. On this last one, everybody, pause at the top. From there, stay high and bend, straighten, bend, straighten, bend, straight. Last couple like this. So we're in that high position with the hip. We're now moving from the knee. Last set, bend, stay bent, and lift and lower. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cooked. Oh, goodness. If you need a little reset of any type, feel free. But that's 3 pretty strong hip exercises on the new side. So you come down. Phase 1, get that leg up and lift and lower. And every one of these reps is fairly small. They're also fairly fast, controlled. And even the bottom of the movement is still a pretty significant lift. Keep your ribs strong. Last couple beats. Pause it at the top. Stay at the top. Bend, straighten, bend, straighten. Thigh stays lifted. It's like a little karate chop from your knee. 2 more. And then 10 beats up and down like you're holding a tray on your foot. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh goodness, let's release that. All right, nice work everybody. We're gonna post up in a seat. So you're gonna take your hands out is how I have them, but back if that feels better, or even some hybrid between back and out. And we're just barely gonna lift the butt. So I've got feet on the floor, glutes off the ground, hands on the floor, just holding. My hips are down low. I'm not trying to get them level with the knees, at least not at this point. And see if you can just alternate feet. Now if that's too hard, just stay on 2 feet. So you've always got 4 points of contact. If it went well with the feet, you might try with the hands. That's probably a little harder. So come back and take a break. Now for those of you that want just one more version of that, we'll try, a hand and a foot off at the same time. Those of you that felt like it wasn't like the right time to remove a limb, stay with all 4s. And if your wrists don't like it, but everything else is fine with it, you could just find a different arm hand shape. Okay, one more time. So we're up like here. Now maybe you're lifting cross diagonal. So I've got a right and a left, left and right, right and left, left and right, right and left, left and right. Then, if you can, everybody, bring your hips up to knee level and squeeze your glutes as hard as you can. Press straight up with your hips. From there, come on down and come into a resting bridge, but we're not going to rest. We're going to lift into bridge, reach the arms overhead. And then down you come. This time leave one arm on the ground, lift into bridge with the opposite arm, the one that isn't on the ground obviously, and reach it at a diagonal over your head. No. So you're going to come down to rest, bridge, new arm, reaches toward the new opposite corner over your head. Oh. We've done this one at least once virtually, but not too many times at all. So just to clarify, this is such a great exercise. You're in a bridge with a reach, with a little twist, and back to neutral. You're in a bridge with a reach, with a little twist, and back to neutral. Let's try 3 more per side. Now, if this is too much, you're just doing a regular bridge. I'm on 2 more per side. One more per side, everybody, or just one more regular bridge. Yeah, that feels good. When you're ready, come on back to center. Oh, goodness. We're going to bring the hands behind the head. And we're going to lift up the head and the shoulders. And then we're going to lift up the feet. And just feel the 4 corners of the front of your trunk, almost like they're trying to connect to each other. The upper right part of your trunk, you maybe even imagine it fastening down to your left hip. The upper left part of your trunk fastening down to your right hip. Your hips pulling up toward your trunk. Oh, goodness. Hello, Bernie. All right, it's our cat, Bernie. And then release that. Oh. Again, I'm saying 2, but we're going to do more than 2 more. Lift up your head and your shoulders. Lift up your feet. Feel your trunk nice and strong and stable. And then to add a little extra feature, diagonal reaches. Oh. Elbow to opposite knee. Elbow to opposite knee. Oh, gosh. That knee that is not being touched can thrust out into the room. 5 more. 5. 4. 3. Ooh. 2. It's per side. And 1. Yeah. Let's hug the knees. Roll back down. Oh. Now from here, everybody, we're just going to hug one knee toward the chest. Let that opposite leg run nice and long. And just relax into this one. Now from here, you got the hugged leg, you got the straight leg. You're going to take the arm of the straight leg side, hold the bent knee, and swish your sacrum over toward the bent knee a little. And then please begin to twist. Oh my God. Twist. Oh, the hip across. So we've got hip and low belly going one way, shoulder going the opposite way, and head can pick a direction. Now, my personal setup for this one, I'm able to get my arm to stay on the floor, but I don't quite have the mobility to get me on the floor. But that's okay, it's just where my edge is. Some of you might have a knee down and an arm down. Some of you might have both body parts lifted. Oh. When you're ready, everybody, ease back to center. Please switch sides. We got one new leg hugging in. One long leg stretched out along the floor. The arm that matches the long leg holds the bent leg. Swish the sacrum away from the bent leg. And commence twisting. Woo. So basically the knee takes the low belly and low back in one direction. Oh, the shoulder keeps the trunk along the floor, and the head can pick either side. One more full breath here, everybody. And as always, transitioning, take your time coming out of a twist. Come back to, well, first time this session, hug both knees toward the chest. And let's extend both legs up as though they were along a wall. Last one here. Then we're going to reach both arms up like they're reaching toward the ceiling. Try to follow along with this one. The cues are pretty specific. Arms up toward the ceiling. Then spin your hands out so you've got external rotation in your shoulders. Extend the wrists back like you're pushing the heel of the hand to the ceiling. Barely inwardly rotate your legs so your feet look more like an A frame instead of a V. And then reach the arms overhead, any amount. 10 big breaths here. So to clarify, you've got legs up, inward rotation, just a little touch of it. You've got arms flexed overhead, external rotation plus wrists flexed, extended, sorry. And you've got a little tuck in the chin like we're taking that hyoid bone backward, stuff we did in the very beginning of class. 5 more breaths here. This one's awesome to do against a wall, but it's pretty cool to do out in the center as well. 3 more breaths here. Oh my gosh. Last big breath here, everybody. To let it go, relax your arms down, legs down. Let the legs extend out along the floor. You're going to let the arms open up out along the floor. And we are going to make our way into Shavasana. At least we're going to get down in that shape. Took us a while to get settled onto our back today. Almost an hour. Okay. Oh, goodness, this feels so comfortable. All right, so as I've mentioned many times, as we enter a corpse pose, there's a nice combination, I think, of habit and novelty as we enter the shape. It's so familiar if you've done a lot of yoga. And yet it's so novel because we've never slipped into corpse pose at 11:56 on this particular Sunday, or whenever you might be practicing. So it's always a little fresh. And the pose is ideally both symmetrical, so it's not a haphazard shape we just kind of land in. It's a specific, mindful, deliberately neutral, comfortable shape. And then if it needs softening around the edges, a bolster under the knees, a little tweak here or there, a pillow under your head, a cloth over your eyes. Those are all welcome adjustments that you can make as need be. And then before we just find our last little period of silence here, just one more time, connect to a few slow, deep breaths, with or without Ujayi. You definitely want them to come in through the nose, but they could go out through the mouth if you like. Just a couple mindful breaths. And then for the bulk of the pose, that remains here, just allowing your body to be breathed. Giving your nervous system a chance to calm down. And giving your mind a chance to gently open. Shavasana. Vajra Guru Pema Siddhi Om Mea Hum Vajra Guru Pema Siddhi Om Mea Hum Vajra Guru Pema Siddhi. Loosely translated, it's like all is one and the power and wisdom of the infinite lies within. It also seems kind of evocative of the Rumi quote that we probably are familiar with, that we're not just a drop in the ocean, we're the entire ocean manifest in a drop. I think that chant has very similar sentiments. We're not just a little speck in the world, although that's a perspective, but we kind of have, much of the complexity of the world within us. And we're within it. So the yoga, the yoking, the uniting, the joining. So everybody, if you haven't yet made your way to a seat, please feel free. Let's join the hands at the heart and just connect to 5 conscious, deliberate breaths in and out. With or without Ujayi, with or without sound. 2 more conscious, deep breaths. All right, everybody. Thank you for practicing together. Namaste.